Sonotoshizodi ninzukukila nokwisonga ukushona salaruka kaunditese ndipfugame pasi kushandaukuita uri kundinzwa ka asi kaunyatsokuta kandinzwa Kandisindiri jackpot, sang it that was so hot, like it in your mother tongue. Nechishona nokukai, nokushedza ine mutupo nokulabha iri go, kana dzishire maoko nozviita pasho, nokutendredza musoro kunge zowina bheri kana pagwazi nemubhodhumi nini ndiri heavy wondipedza nemajokes kunge cow, ndogara ndichisekerera everyday kunyemwerera.
All right. How's everybody doing? Everybody all over the world, all my brothers and sisters all over the world. Morrow, Saragona, Heasy, Molina, Healy. Hello to everybody. All my brothers and sisters. I can't get enough of saying hello. I thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to come to you on this show. Hey, check out www.bantufm.com on Facebook, on IG, that's Instagram, and Twitter. Hey, where we'll have all kinds of things for you on there. Hey, and me, myself, hey, hit me on my Facebook inbox, Michael Rounder, if you have any questions or comments, and send questions and comments about the show. Send questions and comments to me about my last topic, which was COVID-19 and relationships, and about the topic today. Or you have any question about any kind of recipes I've done, hey, hit me up with those too. If you want videos for these, if you want me to start doing videos, hit me up. Let me know. We'll see what we can do about that. Now today we have a topic that touches upon our very soul of Black people, and even though a lot of us are not part of their diaspora, it touches and hints at us too, because of some of the things that we've been through in both of our histories. You know, the diaspora, we went through lots and lots of horrible things, and I know, and I wasn't there firsthand. I wasn't there, as part of my brothers and sisters' culture on the motherland, but I've read and I know quite a bit about how colonialism was, and it's just sad how people can be treated like less than human beings by another oppressing race, and it totally sucks. But it leads to this type of thing that I'm talking about today. I'm talking about what is PTSS, and we'll get into it for a second. But the dessert for today, and trust me, y'all, we will not be doing a dessert next week. We will be doing an entree or appetizer, but I'm thinking more of an entree next week. But this week we're going to be doing sweet potato pound cake. Now, sweet potato pound cake would not be as sweet as what we had last week with the sandwich cookies. So, stay tuned for that later on doing this. Now, don't get it confused now. PTSD is not, and I repeat, is not the same thing as PTSS. Now, PTSD is a psychiatric disorder or a mental disorder that may occur in people who have experienced some kind of traumatic event, something that happened traumatic in their lives. It can be anything like a natural disaster, a serious accident, or a terrorist act, war, combat. I apologize if it's too close to you, but I know exactly about the rape, certain type of death, a threatening death, or some kind of sexual violence, or a serious injury. It could be a car accident, anything like that that leads to um, a real bad like pain, feelings of pain in your heart, and it just touches down deep within your soul. But what PTSS is a theory that explains the problems of many of the adaptive survival, explains that many adaptive survival behaviors in African American communities throughout the United States and the diaspora, and it also touches upon those in the colonial sector. It is a condition that exists as a consequence of multi-generational oppression of Africans and their descendants, resulting as part of that chattel slavery. Chattel slavery over here, those of y'all who don't know, but most of y'all probably know, chattel basically meant we were property. We were pretty much like cattle, like cows and stuff like that. And we were treated as property. And we were treated like less than. Some of us was treated less than the animals. A form of slavery which was predicated on the belief that African Americans were inherently and genetically inferior to whites. This was then followed by institutional racism, which continues to bother us nowadays. It continues to oppress us nowadays. That institutional racism, and in some of your countries, those institutionalized racism, those institutionalized thoughts still stand today. And it's about time. I'm not gonna get too much into this, but it's really time for us as a community, a worldwide community, to get together and stop the arguing amongst ourselves, and see what's going on around us, because you have in so many countries, the Chinese are coming in and now they're colonializing. It may not seem like it now, but with the economics and the way they're treating people, they're beginning to colonialize. They're beginning to act as if they are better than, and they are committing atrocities economically and in some ways politically too, working with some of our leaders. Same thing going on over here in the diaspora, over here in the United States. Our leaders have a problem when it comes to helping or making amends to things that have happened to our race of people. Now, when it comes to other folks' ethnic groups, they do get a sorry or a reparation or something like that, but not so much for blacks. We pay lip service over here, and sometimes we don't even get that lip service. Also, this we're gonna briefly talk about getting help for mental health. Sometimes we are afraid to get help because we feel like we have to stand alone. There's a stigma about mental health in the black community saying, wait a minute, you're weak if you get that. And you end up standing alone. You end up being vanilla. It's just like a pound cake. When you make a vanilla pound cake, that vanilla stands on its own, and it has nothing to really kind of accentuate the flavors. It has nothing to make it have any kind of pizzazz or come out of its shell. But when you add a community behind it, when you add a little helping hand from someone, it gives it a new type of profile. And so that's what we're doing with the sweet potato and the sweet potato and the pound cake. The sweet potato and the different ingredients that go into this recipe will give it a different profile. Now, let's start with the recipe. Do as we do. We're gonna start with the recipe, and then we're gonna go back into PTSS. All right. Now, what you want to start off with in this recipe, let's go ahead and put the dry ingredients on together. All right, in another bowl. So what we're gonna do, and you don't have to do it in this particular order, but a lot of folks do it like this. A lot of the pastry chefs, they do it like this, but it does not have to be done like this. You can do the wet ingredients first or whatever like that. But let's go ahead and get the dry ingredients. We're gonna use 3 cups of butter. Excuse me, Lord, 3 cups of butter. 3 cups of all-purpose flour. All right, 3 cups of all-purpose flour. We want to put in 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That's 1 teaspoon of baking soda. All right. We want to put in 1.5 teaspoon of cinnamon. 1.5 teaspoon of cinnamon. All right. Now, me personally, 1.5 is enough for most people. But me personally, I like big bold flavors. So I like it just to hit me in the face. So I add another 1/2 teaspoon for 2, but really it calls for like 1.5. Now, if you want that just hint of it, go with the 1.5. It might be best for you. All right, me, I'm doing the 2. A 1/2 teaspoon of ginger and a 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Me personally, I'm going for 3/4. Like I said, but for the recipe, go for 1/4 a teaspoon of nutmeg, and then add 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Add that salt because that salt brings out the flavor in your food, and go ahead and sift that in. Very good, very good. I already can hear you doing all the way across these United States and all the way across the Atlantic and down from the Caribbean. Sift it, shake what the girls used to say, shake it, don't break it. When they play hopscotch and stuff, well, whatever. All right, let's go ahead into the wet ingredients. What we want to do is to make this really moist, we want to take room temperature butter. We're going to take 1 cup, that's 2 sticks of butter. 2 sticks of butter, a whole cup of butter. If you get it in sticks, that'll be 2 sticks of butter. And what you want to do, you want to add a 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Add 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. And that oil is going to make it moist. So 2 sticks of butter, that's a cup of butter, and a 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Another thing you want to do here is you want to add your 2 different kinds of sugars. All right, you want to do 3/4 cups of brown sugar. 3/4 cups of brown sugar. And you want to use 1 cup of sugar. All right. Now, in this recipe, I recommend you use light brown sugar, y'all. Light brown. All right. And then you want to put in your vanilla. All right. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I might use 1 more because I like the vanilla flavor a lot. But 2 teaspoons of vanilla. All right, what we want to do, we're going to mix those around. Today, I'm using my hand mixer, which means my hands, excuse me, well, my manual mixer, which is my hands and wrists. We're going to go ahead and whip that up. And like if you do, you're going to be doing that way for a while, but you want to mix it until it's fluffy and it's pale. All right. That's good. That's good. Those y'all got stand mixers and hand mixers, you should be about finished in a couple minutes. But we're going to go ahead and move on because I already got mine done on the side over here. All right. What you want to do is add your eggs. 1 at a time. You're going to add 4 eggs, 1 at a time. And we're going to whip those up 1 at a time. Now, if you're at home by yourself and you're doing the recipe, you at the house, if you want to drop the 4 eggs in right then and there, you can. But it's always recommended to do it at 1 at a time so you can make sure they're well incorporated into your cake. All right. Now, you got 2 rules of thumb here. Now, this recipe calls for 1.5 cups of buttermilk, or you can use 1.5 cups of sour cream. Now, either one is great. Now, what they do is they have acidity in it, and that acidity breaks down the flour when it comes in to make the cake nice and moist. So I'm using 1.5 cups of buttermilk, but sour cream is just as fine. All right, and what you're gonna do as you pour in the buttermilk, you're gonna alternate with the flour mixture. So let's take 1 cup of the flour mix it, and you're gonna add in 1 cup of flour. And you're just gonna whip that up quickly here. All right. Once that's incorporated, let's put another cup of flour and the rest of the milk or sour cream. All right, we whip that up real nice. All right, as we said, as I told you with the cakes. Now, when you put the last cup in, you don't want to whip it anymore. You don't want too much air to get into that cake because it's gonna mess it up. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna put that last cup in and you're gonna stir it by hand. If you're using the mixers, you're gonna stir it by hand. And we're not talking about whipping. We want to stir it in. We want to stir it in and don't care. Don't worry about the lumps. You're gonna stir it in. All right. Great job. Now, what you are gonna do now is you're gonna take a cup and a half of sweet potatoes. That might be 2 medium sweet potato, maybe a large 1.5. But you're gonna use 2 cups of sweet potato, 1.5. Excuse me, 1.5 cup of sweet potato. Now you can either boil your sweet potatoes, which are really good, or you can bake them in the oven. Now it has a nice deep bold flavor when you bake them in the oven, and you loses none of the nutrients or none of that once you bake it. Real sugary. All right. Now you can put the sweet potatoes in when you put the eggs in, or you can put it in right when you put it after you put in the flour mixture. But you just stir that in also. Stir it. All right. So let's put our potatoes in, and that's no problem at all. We put potatoes in, and we are all good. Now with our bun pan, you're gonna use a 10-inch bun pan. All right. Now, what I like to do is I like to use the wrapper that comes out the butter and wipe it around the insides of the pan. It's gonna butter all of it. It's gonna lubricate the whole thing, flour the pan just like that. Now, if you're one of those folks who also like me, sometimes I don't feel like doing this. So I just spray it with some spray. And I'm gonna tell you a little secret of flour in your pans too by making a paste, but we'll talk about that on another time. All right. Now, at the beginning, you're gonna preheat your stove at 350. So you should have already had your stove preheated at 350. Forgive me for not saying that at the beginning, but preheated at 350. All right. You're gonna stick that pound cake in there for about 55 to 60 minutes. So what I would do, depending on how hot your stove goes, how much the heat is in there, I would set it at 55. I mean, I would set it at that 350, but set my timer for 55. All right, set my timer for 55, and maybe, just maybe, those 60 minutes. All right. So as we put that in the stove, let's go back. One thing that hurts us with this post traumatic slave syndrome is we have different feelings. Um, Dr. Jordan Greer is the one that came up with this hypothesis, but it seems true because think about it. You have vacant esteem. Now, vacant esteem is your primary self-esteem, along with feelings of hopelessness, and sometimes you can feel hopeless because of the work situation that we have, poverty, our resources in our community as far as um, resources such as childcare, all types of things like that. There's depression, and there's a self-destructive outlook on life, you know. And then you have a marked propensity for anger and violence. Sometimes there are extreme feelings of suspicion, you know, of others, and negative motivation toward others. Because you got to think about it. With all these things going on around us in the world, why wouldn't we think police are out there to wreck us? Why aren't they out there to do something harmful to us? So we are suspicious of the police or anybody who has authority. Sometimes there's violence toward property or others, even anger toward one of our own group members. Sometimes we have anger for ourselves. Depending on who we are, we have anger against our relatives and friends and acquaintances. Then you have racial or racist socialization, and that is learned helplessness. Being too dependent on certain services, literacy deprivation. It began all the way back from the times of slavery where we weren't taught to read or weren't taught that reading was an important thing for us to do. We have a distorted self-concept. Um, Something simple as color. You know, you have some people who feel like if you're not a fair-skinned person, you're not good looking. We have a sense of we have apathy. We have aversions for the following. Um, we have a habit of following customs of our own, the people who outside of our culture. Our physical characteristics does not identify with our culture or ethnic group. We take on other people so we can be more like them. And PTSS has caused us to do those things. So it's really crazy how this thing has taken over some of our lives. And sometimes it'll sneak up on you. You won't even know you're doing it. And then next thing you know, it's like, whoa, you know. And let's look at some of the stats that may cause people to do these things as far as on PTSS. Um, 16% of blacks and African Americans people reported having mental illness, and that's less than prior years. That means less people are going out to seek help. Um, you have a you have a decline in suicide for blacks, but for young black people 18 to 25, it has risen. So that's a bad thing. Then you have binge drinking, smoking, and illicit drugs to ease your pains, whether it be physical pains or um, mental pains. Coping is hard. All those things tie into it. So, I mean, it's a breakdown with ourselves and with our community. It's a breakdown with ourselves and our ethnic group, our ethnicity. It's a breakdown between ourselves and our culture. That's what PTSS does. It breaks you down and causes you to feel like, hey, I'm not that person. I'm not from the motherland. I'm not from the Caribbean. I'm more of this and that. Nah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every black person in the world um, originated in whatever place, but you can dang near count it as gospel that 99% of us have relations back to the motherland, you know. But let's get on to our attitudes and how do we seek help? All right, after we get through this next part of the cake. So I've already got my cake done here. All right, and I got it out the oven. I already have one already done. Now, what you want to do is you want to cool your cake for 7 minutes on a baking rack. You want to cool it for 7 minutes, and then flip it out after that. All right, but hold on. I'm gonna tell you what if you forget and leave your cake in the pan for about 15, 20 minutes and it sticks? All right, what you can do is turn your eye of your stove on and just let the fire touch the edges and the bottom edges and around the sides and just turn it over like that and it'll come right out. What it is, the sugars and got cold and it's stuck to the side of the pan. So once you warm it up a little bit, it'll flip right out. All right. Now, like I said, you're gonna check it, make sure it's done. You're gonna check it with a toothpick. Y'all know the procedure. Now, what we want to do to bump this thing up even more is we want to use a make a orange pecan praline sauce. So what you're gonna do? You get a saucepan. You're gonna take brown sugar. Once again, light brown sugar. You're gonna take a cup and a fourth of that. You're gonna take a half a cup of butter. You're gonna take a half a cup of heavy cream. Now, if you don't have heavy cream, what you need to do is use a half a cup of milk, whole milk, and a fourth of a cup of whole milk, and a fourth of a cup of butter, and melt that and heat it up in the microwave. All right, that will make you a heavy cream. All right, that'll help out. Now, you're gonna pour 1/4 cup, and if you want a real orangey flavor, you're gonna put a half a cup of orange juice, but just use 1/4 of a cup if you just want a hint of that flavor. All right. After you put all that in there, we're gonna put it on the stove and let it boil down for 10 to 15 minutes, and you're gonna put it on low. Make sure you keep this on low and make sure you consistently stir this. You're gonna stir until it start getting bubbly and just start bubbling up and the sugar should be melted. You shouldn't have any kind of sugars in it. So if you have a let's say you have a rubber spatula that can stand that kind of heat, that's heat proof. Use that. If you look at the spatula, you won't see any kind of specks of sugar on it. That means, hey, you through. All right, it's gonna be smooth and everything. All right. Now, in the meantime, while you were doing that and you sitting off, let that cool off on the side, you're gonna take your pecans, you chop pecans out, and now you can do this or not. You can take them out, chop them up, and just pour it in there, or you can put those in the oven for a few moments and let them toast for a second for a real nice flavor. But anyway, I toasted mine. All right. What you want to do is put the vanilla in there, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna put 2 teaspoons of vanilla. All right, we're gonna use 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now, if you want to, you can use 2 teaspoons of orange flavor, but 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and let's use a fourth of a teaspoon. Cause I don't want to use too much. I started to say half, but let's use a fourth of a teaspoon of salt just to bring out that flavor, and let's put in the pecans, 1 cup of pecans. All right, now it depends on how thick you want it. Now, if you want it thick, what you're gonna do is just let it sit and cool off. The more and more it cool, the thicker it's gonna get. All right, and then you're just gonna pour it over your cake, and then you got some good eating there. I'm telling you. Now that's what I'm talking about. Pound cake. I'm telling you that's good eating. Trust me, you. All right, Jordan. Let's go ahead and go back to our attitudes about getting mental health, because there is help out there, but let's look at some of the roadblocks that keep us from getting help, and then let's talk about getting help. All right. One thing that keeps us from getting help is we have a stigma against it, which I said earlier. There's something against psychological openness because we're not used to be a group of people that's open to others, especially when it goes to our white counterparts, we don't like being, oh, if you're conscious about things and know certain things, you're not really open about talking to them and help seeking from certain people. And you know that the psychological realm um, has more of our white counterparts than black doctors. The, it's hard. 30% of participants report having a mental illness and not receiving help for that mental illness. So they've been diagnosed with something, but they won't go back. Men are more particularly has a stigma than women. Men are less likely to go get help, and that's a real bad thing. But across the board, we're less likely to get help for anything. We go to the doctor less than women. We get checkups less than women. That leads to bad health on our parts. Um, we're very apprehensive about mental health issues and participating in things that will help us in that fashion. So we have to get out here and ask for help and do things to make ourselves better, as far as exercise and all types of stuff like that. So let's get into treatment. First of all, first of all, before we can go forward with any kind of mental treatment within ourselves, we have to have an open discussion within these countries, especially this country here in the United States, because nobody want to talk about the wrong that has been done to the black race as a group. You might have some people that would talk about it, but as a country, what are you going? What has been done? What has been done in the past, and what are we going to do about it moving forward? What are some of the things that we're going to do to correct these things? What are some of the things that we're going to do about police procedure, politics, as far as programs, community programs, things of such? What are we going to do as blacks together to do something in our communities as a whole? What kind of businesses are we going to invest in within ourselves? All right. Now I know what you're saying. I understand very much because we have that helplessness that comes from many times when we had communities that were very vibrant. Like we had Black Wall Street, and it got torn down and destroyed. We had our own communities in um, North Carolina that had his own banks, his own businessmen, his own newspaper, and it was destroyed. In Oregon and in Washington, they were pushed out of those areas when they started doing well. In some western towns in California, blacks and Mexicans were pushed out once things started going really well, as far as gold mining and things like that. So it's one of those things where it's really tough to think about, but we have to talk about those things to be able to move forward, right? White America, you can't move forward, and we got to move forward by having a conversation. Got to have a conversation about this. All right. Now, one thing we have to do as blacks is seek help for our mental health. Please, let's go seek help from someone. And one thing we need to do as a people is um, let's go to our doctor. If you don't have a mental health doctor that's black, you can go ask your primary doctor. Talk to him about some of the issues that you may be having, and can he recommend someone? And when he recommend that person, ask, hey, has this person had experience dealing with black issues, dealing with our outlooks, dealing with our traumas, things like that. Do we have any experience um, having taking classes and watching out for us, or watching out for first of all, are they in any type of way, are they not sympathetic but empathetic to how we feel? Because you have some people sit up there and they're not even paying attention to you. So are they empathetic? Are they listening to you? Are they allowing um, you to put your input into your own mental health? Because I've had a mental health provider, and I think he meant well, but it was like being dismissive. Now, I'm not gonna cast any kind of aspersions on him, but it's just one of them things where I felt like he felt like, well, I know what's better for you than you know, and so I was like, man, I got to get away from this cat because he doesn't know what he's talking about. You can have all the book sense in the world and still not know what your job really pertains. All right. But that's pretty much it. As far as um, your mental health and having worries about paying for it, go to your um, community service offices, and they should have some kind of funds set up for you to see mental health, or they might have a doctor on staff to go see mental health and do anything that will calm yourself down. Work on yourselves, love yourselves. Always, I know it's easy to say love yourself, and it's easy to say God is watching and have faith. But sometimes we have to do the things that are hard, the things that we don't see. All right. Sometimes we have to take a moment and breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Sometimes we have to do that, and we have to keep ourselves calm. Life can be calm, but we have to. But most of the time, it has its twists and turns. We have to make it what we want it to be, y'all. Now, if you like this radio broadcast today, get in touch with my brothers and sisters at www.bantufm.com. That's www.bantufm.com. Like us on Facebook, send comments and everything like that. Like us on IG, send us some love on Instagram, and hit us up on Twitter. And hey, hit me up on Facebook in my inbox. Any kind of questions, any kind of love you want to spread to me, anything. Let me know about those videos if you want me to do videos. Let me know what questions or comments that you have. I want to know about your comments. Am I saying the right or wrong things? Any kind of things that would be resourceful for anybody. Let's put it out there. Let's put the discussions out there. All right, because the only time we can solve those things is we put those discussions out into the world, and we can come together as one to try to solve these problems. All right, this is Coach Randall, Chef Randall, bidding all my brothers and sisters out there much love, goodbye, and peace to you and yours.